Welcome back. This is Sandy with Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today we're going to be making this super easy spring-inspired tumbler. As always, I'll make sure to put everything that I used today down in the description box below, so that way you guys can shop those items if you would like to. And if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So let's wake up, prep these tumblers, and slay all day. Let's do this. So I'm actually using a coffee mug today. This is a 14-ounce coffee mug that I purchased through the Stainless Depot. I went ahead and prepped and painted my tumbler. I just used a paint that is coordinating to the colors that I'll be using. So I'm using a blue color, which I'll show you guys here in a second. And I'm actually going to apply my glitter today using my Amazing Sealer, but you could use Mod Podge, you can use the epoxy method, whatever way you guys want to do it. We're just going to completely coat our tumbler with whatever glitter you choose. Now, if you are using an adhesive like I am today with my glue, if you're using that to apply your glitter, you just want to make sure you put a nice even layer of your glue on there, because if you leave little peaks and valleys in the glue, you'll kind of be able to see those ripples after you apply your glitter. All right, now that my glue is all applied, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the glitter I'll be using today. I'm going to be using Oceanside, and this is through my glitter shop, socglitters.com, but you, of course, can use any color, any type, any brand of glitter you already have on hand to achieve this look today. So now I'm just going to go ahead and completely load up my tumbler with my base glitter here. I'm going to let that glue dry really well. You want to make sure your glue is nice and dry before you move on to any epoxy, because if you don't let the glue dry, it'll turn the epoxy kind of milky, and we definitely don't want that. So go ahead and let your glue dry up really well, and then we're ready to put our first layer of epoxy over top of the raw glitter. Now that my glue is nice and dry, I went ahead and I did spray it down with my 2x Ultra Spray. I'll show it to you guys here in a second. I just do it as a precaution, just to make sure that the epoxy does have something to stick to, because this is a metallic glitter. Not that I'm worried about the glitter shifting around, but I'm just worried about the epoxy having something to adhere to once I apply it, because sometimes those metallic glitters will want to wick away the epoxy. Now, because I'm using a 14-ounce coffee mug today, I went ahead and did 20 mLs of my epoxy just to make sure that I could get a really nice coating over top, and I didn't have to do a second coating of epoxy. But if you find that you're going to need a second coat of epoxy over top after this is cured, go ahead and apply another coat, because you want to make sure that this surface is nice and smooth for the next step that we're about to do. So after I'm done here, I'm going to go put it onto my turner. I'm going to hit it up really good with my blowtorch just to pop any little micro bubbles. I'm going to let that cure overnight, and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. So I wanted to give this kind of a bleached look spray paint job. I really like that kind of look, that kind of distressed bleached spray look. So here it is, all nice and cured and ready to go. Now, you guys know I absolutely love Rust-Oleum, but for today, I'm actually going to be using Krylon's fluorescent paint. I'm going to be using their orange and their pink. I actually really like these colors, you know. I don't mind those. I prefer Rust-Oleum. Anyways, so as you guys know, fluorescent paints are very translucent, and that's kind of the look that I'm going for. I wanted to still be able to see the glitters underneath. So as you know, fluorescent colors, to really make them pop, you need to use a lighter background. But if you use kind of a darker background like I'm using today, it's going to give it more of a jewel toned look. And that, again, that's exactly what I'm going for here. So you just want to make sure you shake your cans up really good. Make sure you prime them up, spray them a couple times, make sure they're spraying properly, because we don't want it drippy. We just want it a nice, even coating of this first part. Now, I am going to be adding little drips to it, but we didn't want it just yet, you know. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my orange, and I don't really want this to be the dominant color. I want more of the pink than I do the orange, but I just thought they went really well together. So I'm just going to make really random blotches of this orange all over it. And as you can see, you can still see the glitter underneath. So now that I have all my little spritzes of orange, I'm gonna go ahead and add the little drippies. So all I do is I hold the nozzle until those little paint splatters, there we go, just start to drizzle out. And you'll see there's just little splotches of it all over. And that's the look we're going for. We're going for like a bleach shirt distressed look. Now, after I'm done doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and clear out my nozzle so that way it doesn't get all gooped up, because these fluorescent paints are really picky. So I'm gonna go ahead and clear out my nozzle nozzle. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the pink, and I'm just going to go right up next to my orange and in between the orange, and just kind of continuing through and making sure that I leave a little bit of that blue glitter underneath, still kind of poking through. And then after I get done spray painting all my pink on, we're going to do the same thing where I take my nozzle and I just hold it down ever so slightly, just so that way I get those splatters all over the cup. And what will happen once we go to clean it is all those little splatters will stay, and any little overspray will be removed once we go to clean it up, which I will show you guys that here in a second. But see, I just hold my nozzle down, make sure I just get it all over it. And I really wanted to load it up this time, so I did a lot of this little splatter look. And I did actually come through with a little bit more of my fluorescent orange, just kind of touch up some spots here and there. And then after I'm done doing that, see, I'm going to hold it and see how it looks once I'm holding it in my hand. I would like that, but I just wanted to fill it in just a little bit more. So after I'm done doing this, I'm going to go ahead and let that dry, and then we're ready to kind of clean it up. All right, we're back inside and everything is all dry. And as you know, like when you touch fluorescent paint, it feels soft. It's weird. It's almost velvety. But you see there's a lot of overspray. So all I'm going to do is take my rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, and we are just going to simply spritz some of that rubbing alcohol right onto the paper towel, and it will just remove the overspray, but not the bigger things. So if you use acetone, it's pretty much going to wipe away everything that you just did, but the rubbing alcohol is just going to remove the little things in between. So we're just going to tidy that up really good. And every so often, I just kind of flip my rag around so that way I'm not accidentally smearing it, because you want to clean up the glitter. You don't want to smear it. So I'm going to take another clean spot and just keep going until everything's all cleaned up the way that I would like to. After I got that all cleaned up, I am going to apply another coating, just a thin coating of epoxy over top before I add the decals. So I went ahead and I sprayed it down with my semi-gloss here, and I'm using about 5 to 10 mLs, probably not even the full 10. I think you just want a thin coating, just so we can adhere our decals to it. I did add a little bit of my silver sparkle dust into it, just to give it a little shimmer. You know, it's optional, but I wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and apply this little thin coat of epoxy. I'm going to stick it on my turner. I'm going to let that cure, and then we're ready to add our decals. All right, my coating of epoxy is nice and cured, and now I'm going to go ahead and remove my football wand. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and tidy up my rim, because I didn't do that on the last round. I'm just going to take my knife here. I'm going to make sure there's no epoxy inside. I'm also going to take some rubbing alcohol and clean out any overspray that might have occurred as well when we did our little spritz of spray paint there. I'm going to take my sanding block and just kind of smooth everything down, make sure it's good to go, and we're ready to add our decals. So the decals that I am using today, I actually purchased through the Dollar Tree, $1.25 $25 tree. But these are actually wall decals. You put them on your wall. And I found these where all of the storage baskets and stuff are at the Dollar Tree. So it's not over by the crafting supplies. It was over by where all their plastic bins and everything were. But I really liked their rub-on transfers that I used for my other tumbler a couple weeks back, so I wanted to give these a try. I thought they were really cute, and I'm curious to see if it still stays shiny under epoxy, which it does. So the first thing I'm going to do, as you guys know, these coffee mugs curve a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom, but I'm not too worried about that because of the shape of these butterflies. As you see, it's nicely cut out, so there's not too much of that overlap of the clear backing. So you don't have to trim it up or anything like that. But once I apply it, I am going to show you guys, I did have some difficulty with a couple parts, which I'll kind of go over here in a second, but I want to show you how I applied these. Because I'm using a curved surface, I'm going to go ahead and just lay down the middle first, and then I'm just going to work my way out each wing, making sure that I burnish it down really good, and it formed very nicely to the curves that this tumbler has. So I'm just going to keep going, making sure that I burnish it down really good. And like I said, I did have a couple issues, but I'll show you in a second. But I really wanted to load all these butterflies up. So I almost used all of my decals here. Now, there were some really big ones and there were some smaller ones, so I tried to do the larger ones first. I wish I would have done the super large ones, but you know. So right here, I noticed on the wing, it was still kind of, I didn't want to lay flat. So right in between, you can see that you're able to slice if you need to. So all I did was make a slice, and I just pushed it all down, and it laid perfectly flat. So I did have to do that for a couple of the butterfly wings, and actually up in between the body as well. I just made little slices so that way I could evenly push everything down and make sure that it was completely sealed all the way around my decals. And again, I just want to stress that I'm not cutting the gold portion of the butterfly. I'm cutting in between where there was just an empty gap where just the clear backing was, because if you cut the foil that's around it, you'll be able to see that. So you just want to cut the clear stuff that's in between. Now, these stickers aren't permanent, and I wanted to see what it'd be like if I did need to remove one, just so that way I could tell you guys. And so I went ahead and removed this guy here. Now, like I said, these are semi-permanent, so it's supposed to be able to just come right off your wall. But once it's on your tumbler, it's from the dollar store, but that backing stuck down pretty good to the tumbler. But all I needed to do is take some rubbing alcohol, and I could completely wipe away that glue backing. But that butterfly, pretty much, you can't use it afterwards. You can't shift it around or anything. So you just have to pretty much ditch that and just keep going. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. But I know no matter what kind of decals you guys use, what kind of look you're going for, I know you guys got this. This is so simple. And I want you guys to always remember as well that there's no right or wrong when it comes to making art. However you feel it should look, that's exactly how it should look. All right, after I got all my little decals applied, I am going to go ahead and prep it to have epoxy applied. I am going to spray it one more time with my semi-gloss clear like I always do, just so that way I know my epoxy will stick to it. I'm going to go ahead and apply about 5 to 10 mLs of epoxy over top. I'm going to put it onto my turner, and I'm going to let that epoxy sit for about an hour. I'm just using regular epoxy for this. So if you're using your quick coat, you might want to come in a little bit sooner. But the reason why I let my epoxy sit was so that way once I sprinkle on my glitter, it doesn't float around. It's going to pretty much stay exactly where I put it. So it's to that point where when you sprinkle on your glitter, it will get stuck down into it, but won't shift around. Okay, anyways, so the first glitter that I'm going to use is called Party Girl, and I just wanted it to look like you could see the butterflies flying around on the tumbler. So I'm just doing little dashes and lines of this glitter in between. I didn't want too much of the pink. I'm actually going to do a little bit more of this orange that I'm going to show you here in a second. So just little dashes of this here and there, just to kind of make it look like you can see the magical butterflies. So now the next glitter I'm going to be using is called Nemo, and both of those glitters can be found at my glitter shop, socglitters.com, and I'll make sure to have it in the description as well. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to sprinkle it around, making lines, kind of looking like they're swooping around and being all magical on the tumbler. You can do a little bit, you can do a lot, however much you guys want to do is completely up to you. Now, after you are all done sprinkling on your glitter, you're going to go ahead and take a little piece of parchment paper or a gloved finger, and you just want to tap all those glitters down so that way they're nice and settled into your epoxy. I'm going to let that cure. Then I'm going to give it its 2 last finishing coats of epoxy, and she is good to go. Whether you take this design and duplicate it as is, or you take it and let it inspire you to create something that is completely your own, I hope that you guys had a lot of fun watching this tutorial today. Again, if you're new to my channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.